Why study church history? Why study historical theology? And these are questions that I receive often. Most people are interested in the problems that are confronting them right now. They want to know answers to contemporary challenges. I think probably American culture, has a very strong bias toward thinking about the present and the future, how to accomplish things, how to solve problems. And I think that's a good focus. I'm glad that we focus on those things. So why look to the past? Well, at Beeson we say that we want to train pastors who can preach. And I think a pastor, I've been pastoring since I was 17 years old. 1977 was the first time I took on a ministerial position, and just a few years later I became a senior pastor at a small church, and I've continued to serve in the church. And I think anyone who faces that task and that challenge as a pastor begins to recognize soon the enormity of it, almost the impossibility of it. We're supposed to stand before a group of Jesus' disciples and speak the Word of God to them. We're supposed to provide pastoral care for them. We're supposed to provide God's perspective on how they're to understand the whole of their lives, their work lives, their family lives. And I can remember just feeling almost paralyzed a few years into ministry when just the enormity of that task and feeling of my own inadequacy to meet that. And one of the things that I needed when I realized how inadequate I was to the task, yet how important the task was, I needed help. And in church history and in historical theology, what we find is a lot of help. We expand our helpers from people who happen to be alive today or happen to be writing books today or posting YouTube videos today. All of those things are helpful. And I encourage ministers and pastors to look for help and take it from any source they can find. But when we get into church history and begin to study the Christian tradition, what we don't find is new revelation from God. That's in the Bible. But what we are able to do is to gather around us and begin a conversation with the best that the church has had to offer for 20 centuries, and even reaching back into God's dealings with His people from the time that He called Abraham out of Ur of the Chaldees. And so that's the first thing. I want those who are going to preach and serve as pastors to find as much help as possible. And if they recognize their limitations and the tasks they have, then they're going to have that appropriate modesty so that they'll want to have that help. But a second thing that it does, when we study church history and historical theology, we are entering into what the church historically has called the communion of saints. We're really participating in the family of God that we're going to belong to forever. And this deepens and broadens and enriches what it means that Jesus died on the cross for us, why He died on the cross for us. And so church history and historical theology are relevant to how we live today and how we face the future, because now we're going to do it with a lot of help that we desperately need.